In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But some legions do not fight wars. They hunt. They break. They make the galaxy scream. Born on the lightless crime world of Nostramo, the Night Lords were forged by their Primarch, the Night Haunter, into the Emperor's perfect monsters. Clad in midnight armor, draped in flayed skin, they do not simply kill. They deliver terror so pure it shatters souls before the first bolt round is fired. Tonight, we descend into the blackest chapters of their history. These are the top 11 most disturbing atrocities, operations, and war crimes of the 8th Legion. Brace yourself, and remember to leave the lights on. 1. The Carrion Realms, Post-Heresy Warbands. Scattered after Curze's death on Sagwalsa, the Night Lords became true predators of the dark. No longer fighting for causes, they raided for sport. The Soul Hunter trilogy perfectly captures this through Talos Valkoran and his warband, skinning populations, massacring astropaths, including children, and turning entire planets into echoing graveyards of flayed corpses. Talos desperately clings to the idea of being a hero in a galaxy that only allows monsters. These warbands don't conquer. They hunt civilizations, and they always turn the lights off. 2. Flayed body tapestries and living sculptures. Across countless campaigns, the Night Lords elevated skinning into grotesque art. Entire populations were flayed alive over days, their hides stitched into massive tapestries depicting corrupted imperial icons, the Aquila with torn wings, the Emperor defiled. Corpses were posed into living sculptures, sometimes fused into the very walls and ceilings of captured ships using dark tech and sorcery. Kept barely conscious so their faint screams echoed through corridors for weeks. 3. The Justice of the Primarch. Before the full fall into madness, Son of the Emperor enforced his own brutal justice. On compliant worlds, even minor crimes were met with extreme punishment. Thieves publicly flayed and mounted, families of offenders crucified. On Nostramo, the young Primarch hunted criminals through the underhives at night, returning their mutilated, often skinned corpses as public art installations. This preemptive terror became the foundational doctrine of the entire 8th Legion. 4. The Macragge Incursion. Curze somehow slipped through Ultramar's defenses and unleashed hell in Magna Macragge Civitas itself. Night Lords massacred civilians in the streets, flayed ultramarine recruits alive for twisted victory parades, and drove blinded, mutilated survivors ahead of them as human shields. Eyes were gouged or sewn shut. Halls were decorated with hanging corpses. Konrad evaded capture for weeks while his sons painted Guilliman's perfect domain red with blood. 5. Participation in the Drop Site Massacre, Istvan 5. While the main betrayal unfolded, the Night Lords reveled in hunting the shattered Loyalist legions, Raven Guard, Salamanders, and Iron Hands. They specialized in dragging wounded Astartes into the shadows for extended torture, displaying mutilated Gene Sons as warnings. Their terror tactics turned a battlefield defeat into a nightmare of hunted prey. Where World Eaters butchered, the Night Lords made survivors beg for death. 6. The Thramas Crusade Rampage, Horus Heresy. Sent as a diversionary force, Curze turned the entire Thramas sector into a playground of prolonged terror. Cities were bombarded, then hunted street by street at night. Populations were skinned en masse, their hides stitched into grotesque flesh tapestries that mocked imperial icons. The campaign featured brutal duels between Curze and Lionel Johnson, and internal Legion drama with Sevatar delivering some of the most memorable lines in the entire Horus Heresy series. 7. The Scream, Psychic Atrocity. In one of their most arcane horrors, the Night Lords captured hundreds of psychers and navigators. They flayed them alive, then executed them through a navigator's exposed third eye, the most agonizing death imaginable. The resulting psychic death scream tore across hundreds of light years. Every psyker and navigator in range suffered catastrophic cranial explosions in cascades of gore and warp energy. Fleets were left blind, worlds crippled. 8. The Exterminatus of Nostramo. After the heresy, a broken and betrayed Konrad Curze ordered the total destruction of his own homeworld. The Night Lord's fleet unleashed devastating lance strikes, cracking Nostramo's crust and turning the planet into a burning ruin. Billions died screaming as hive cities melted into slag. Curze watched the inferno from orbit, seeing it as final justice for a world that had fallen back into crime and corruption. The dying world's glow followed their ships like a funeral pyre. 9. Broadcasting the Agony. A staple of Night Lords' warfare since the Great Crusade, they would kidnap thousands of civilians, often entire families, and drag them into the holds of their strike cruisers. For hours, sometimes days, they broadcast the sounds of slow, methodical torture across planetary Vox networks. Skin being peeled, limbs removed while keeping victims alive. Mothers forced to listen to their children's final moments. Entire worlds surrendered without a shot fired, simply to stop the screaming. Post-Heresy, this became less about compliance and more about pure, sadistic pleasure. 10. The Skinning Pits of Sherat, Great Crusade Era. During the Sherat compliance, Curze's methods openly clashed with Rogel Dawn's more civilized approach. While other legions fought clean wars, the Night Lords dragged defeated populations into blood-soaked pits. There, they flayed victims alive with surgical precision, using stimulants to keep them conscious for hours. Skinned bodies were crucified across buildings and bridges. Their hides hung like banners in the wind. This excess disgusted even fellow Astartes and marked one of the early fractures between Curze and the Imperium. 11. The Corpse Reign of Piamen, Great Crusade Era. During the Great Crusade, the peaceful world of Piamen refused the Emperor's compliance after repelling Dark Eldar raiders. Konrad Curze arrived with barely 100 Night Lords and delivered a lesson in darkness. They seized the planet's main war frigate, dragged the crew of over 100,000 into the holds, and flayed every single one alive with ruthless precision, keeping many conscious through stimulants as their screams echoed through the ship. The Night Lords then positioned the vessel in low orbit and unleashed thousands of mutilated, skinless corpses like grotesque rain. Bodies smashing into streets, buildings, and panicked crowds below in a bleeding storm of broken flesh and bone. From the rain of corpses on Pyramon to the endless nightmare of their post-heresy raids, the Night Lords never truly fell to chaos. They became something worse, the pure embodiment of fear itself. They were created to be the monsters that protect humanity, and in the end, they became the darkness the Emperor feared most. So next time you hear scratching at the hull or screams echoing through the void, pray it isn't the 8th Legion watching you from the shadows, because the Night Lords are always hunting. Thank you for watching. If you survived this list, comment below which atrocity disturbed you the most. And don't forget to subscribe for more grim darkness. Until next time, stay afraid.